So what if everything you've ever been taught about money is just wrong? I mean, that's the big, bold question right at the center of Robert Kiyosaki's Rich Dad, Poor Dad. Today, we're going to go right back to the beginning. We're talking about the story of his two fathers and the one crucial lesson that completely changed his life forever.
I mean, think about that line. I had two fathers, a rich one and a poor one. That's not just some clever opening, you know? It's the whole foundation of the book. It's about this massive conflict happening inside a kid's head. You've got two dads, two completely opposite ways of thinking about money, and he's stuck in the middle trying to figure out which path to take.
And this is where it gets kind of crazy, right? The poor dad, that was his actual father, was this super smart guy, had a PhD and everything. But even with a good job, he was always struggling with money. Then you have the rich dad, his best friend's dad, who dropped out after the 8th grade, and yet he became one of the wealthiest guys in Hawaii. So what gives? What was the real difference here?
Well, it wasn't about their paychecks, that's for sure. It was all about how they thought, their mindset. So let's really dig into this huge gap between them, because that's where all the secrets are. Okay, just look at this. It gets right to the core of it. Poor dad would always say, the love of money is the root of all evil. But rich dad, he flipped it completely. He said, no, the lack of money is the root of all evil. Two totally different worlds.
And what got when they wanted something? Well, poor dad's default was, I can't afford it. And that just shuts your brain down, right? It's a dead end. But rich dad taught him to ask a different question. How can I afford it? See the difference? One is giving up, the other is a challenge that gets your brain working. It's the same thing with career advice. Poor dad's advice was what we all hear. Study hard, get good grades, find a safe, secure job at a good company. But rich dad's advice? Study hard so you can find a good company to buy. One is about being the employee, the other's about being the owner. It's all about job security versus financial freedom.
And then there's risk, you know? Poor dad was terrified of it. His whole thing was play it safe, don't lose money. But rich dad saw it differently. He'd say you have to learn to manage risk. He knew that you can't get wealthy by just avoiding risk. You have to understand it and make it work for you.
And this quote, this one really hits home. Rich dad always said, there is a difference between being poor and being broke. Broke is temporary, poor is eternal. Wow. So being broke is just a situation with your bank account, but being poor, that's a mindset. It's a way of thinking that keeps you trapped.
So, okay, how did all these lessons actually start? I mean, we're talking about a 9-year-old kid here. Well, it all kicked off because he was tired of being the poor kid on the block. And it led to this really weird job offer that wasn't really a job at all. So here's what happened. Young Robert and his friend Mike weren't invited to a beach house because they were from poor families. And that was it. He decided he needed to learn how to get rich. So he goes to his own dad, the poor dad, and asks him. And his dad, to his credit, says, son, I don't know how, but your friend Mike's dad does. You should go ask him.
So they go and ask Mike's dad, the rich dad, to teach them how to make money. And his offer is pretty strange. He says, sure, you work for me, I'll teach you. But if you don't work for me, I won't teach you. No books, no lectures. The lesson was going to be the work itself. Take it or leave it. And, of course, they took it. And the pay, get ready for this, 10 cents an hour. 10 cents! Even back then, for a 9-year-old kid, that was basically nothing. They were dusting canned goods for 3 hours every Saturday for just 30 cents. This was clearly not about the money. This was a test.
So yeah, after a few weeks of this, Robert was done. He was working hard at this boring job, getting paid peanuts, and he wasn't learning a thing about money. He felt totally ripped off and was ready to quit. And that was the moment Rich Dad had been waiting for. Now he was ready to learn.
So he storms into Rich Dad's office and just lets him have it. He calls him a crook, says he's greedy, that he's just exploiting them for cheap labor and not teaching them anything. He's furious, He feels completely used and he's about to walk out for good.
But Rich Dad's reaction is just perfect. He doesn't get mad. He calmly explains his teaching style. He says that life doesn't really talk to you. It just kind of pushes you around. And each one of those pushes is life trying to teach you something. That feeling of being underpaid and angry, that was the lesson.
And then he asks this one simple question that changes everything. He just looks at him and says, how do you know that I haven't taught you anything? And bam, that just flips the whole situation on its head. Robert starts to realize that the lesson wasn't in what Rich Dad said, it was in the experience itself. That whole 10 cents an hour thing was the classroom.
And here is the absolute heart of it all. Rich Dad explains that most people, when they're in that situation, they blame their boss. My boss is cheap. I need a raise. But the real lesson is this. If you realize that you're the problem, then you can change yourself. You can learn something and get smarter. It's all about owning your situation, not blaming everyone else. So, what was the big takeaway from all that frustration and working for pennies? Well, it turned out to be the #1 rule of wealth, the thing that really separates the rich from everybody else.
And here it is, lesson #1. The rich don't work for money. They have their money work for them. That's it. That's the secret to getting out of the rat race. See, most of us are stuck in that loop of getting up, going to work, paying bills. Repeat. The rich, they spend their time buying and building assets, things that generate income for them even when they're not actively working.
Now, this idea isn't just a one-off saying. It's actually the key to a much bigger concept Rich Dad taught. He had this framework that breaks down how everyone earns their income. On one side, you've got employees and self-employed people. They basically work for money. On the other side, you've got business owners and investors. They own systems and assets that make money for them. The whole game is to figure out how to move from that first side over to the second.
And so this became the mantra, the thing Robert learned to repeat to himself over and over again. I don't work for money, money works for me. It's way more than just words. It's a total shift in thinking. It's about rejecting that old idea that you have to trade your time for money to survive.
So I'll leave you with this question to think about. Right now, in your own life, are you working for money or is your money working for you? Because according to Rich Dad, the way you answer that, well, that's what's going to shape your entire financial future.